you lovely lot. Wow, it's unusual for me to be live on my public page. It feels a bit different. Normally I do regular lives in my groups, and your private group live is quite different, but it's just live, and I do love an opportunity to chat. So I've come on a couple of minutes early because I wanted to check the tech worked. It's slightly different setup when you do it on the public page. I'm going to give you a few minutes to join. This will be recorded, which I shall say again when people have joined. This will be recorded by Facebook and should be broadcast on the public channel, but we'll see. And if nobody turns up, I'm still going to talk about menopause because that's what I do. So I've got a little list because I tend to jog my own memory by writing out a little random list, but I will not stick to the list. Anybody that has a neurodivergent brain or anybody that has a very busy brain will know that a list is pretty pointless, to be honest. I write things down and that's where they go to die. But it cleanses my brain a bit. So I've written a little list of things I wanted to talk to you about today. And the reason for my live today is essentially because it's World Menopause Awareness Month, and today is World Menopause Awareness Day. And today it's just been delightful because normally I'm in this zone here, I'm in my little box, but today I've seen real people. It's been so lovely. I've been asked, and this was such an honour, I was asked by NHS prescribers to go to our local NHS doctor surgery to host the HRT table as they were holding a little event. It was amazing. Had a lovely little queue of women asking me lots of questions. Had the best day ever. Forgot to eat. Now I'm really tired, but that's my own fault. So do as I say, not as I do, because I haven't looked after myself very well today. For those of you who are new to my lives, a little bit of an intro. My name is Jane Pangborn. I'm the founder of Menopause Not Mad, and we've been around since about 2017, although I've been studying menopause for an awful lot longer than that. I'm 57. I am postmenopausal. I was perimenopausal at age 37. So if you are watching this thinking, oh, I'm too young, there's no point in me even watching this, please don't think that. In many cases, age is totally irrelevant. I have clients in their 20s who have gone into surgical menopause or chemical menopause for various different reasons. And I have much older clients as well in their 80s, late 80s, who have started HRT and feel considerably better than they did when they met me. So please don't think this doesn't apply to you if you're a woman and you have a uterus, or you've had a uterus, or you've had surgery, or you're young or you're old, whatever it is. Menopause applies to you. And actually, if you're a man watching this, menopause applies to you too, because partners, male partners, and all women will want to know about menopause. So you will know, if you've seen anything I've ever done, that I am very random. Like I said, I make notes, they go there to die. I never look at them again. I have some notes in front of me, I will not follow those notes. So if you're here expecting a lovely, slick little video or webinar, I'm sorry, you're going to be sadly disappointed, because that is not how I work. I work best on a Q&A basis or on a transference of information basis. So I'm not into slick slides. Yes, I have courses with slick slides, but I just tend to react to other people's questions and answer the questions as they come up. And I have lots of information to impart to you today. If you wish to ask a question, please do. I've got some pre-questions which I've found on my phone after the event, so I'll try and incorporate those into what I'm going to talk to you about. But today, because the topic of World Menopause Awareness Month that's such a mouthful, I'm not quite sure I'm going to remember that for long, is HRT. Yay! My favourite topic. I'm going to just go back to the basics a little bit with HRT. There are loads and loads of things you probably want to know. And by the way, if you do ask a question and I don't see it, because actually sometimes I don't see comments if they come up until after the event. So if I don't see your comment, please feel free to type away. If I see it, I'll answer it. If I don't see it, I'll answer it afterwards. So please don't be shy. Pop your comment on if you have something relevant to HRT. I'm more than happy to answer. If you're watching this and you have no interest in HRT and you think HRT is a right load of nonsense, you are still welcome, but please don't be abusive, and please don't give me a hard time, because I am not here for that. I am here to help and to educate and inform. I have plenty of haters in the world of social media. I really don't need any more. So thank you very much. I shall rest with that comment. So, introduction to me, you know who I am, menopause educator. Today, what I want to discuss are the basics of HRT. I am, if I'm honest, also going to mention my new book. What, Jane? You've written a book? How on earth were we supposed to know when you never even mention it? I only mention it on every post at the moment, but it's being launched on Tuesday, so you can rest assured things will calm down after Tuesday. If you're on my mailing list, by the way, you will be told about links and where to buy it from. No pressure, but I'd love you to buy my book. And if you could buy it Tuesday, that would be even better, because then we go up the Amazon charts. But if you're not on my mailing list, and you want to be on my mailing list for updates, not just about my book, for free updates, then please pop onto menopauseornotmad.co.uk, and there is a link on the homepage to sign up to my mailing list. There are two links actually. One, you can sign up to my mailing list and receive the download, a free ebook of mine. If you don't give a damn about the ebook or you've already got it, just go to the other link, which is sign up to my mailing list. And either of those will get you onto my mailing list. I also have a petition to mandate the government to pay for basic ground level HRT guidance for all women who are presenting with perimenopausal symptoms. I haven't put that on the website yet, but you can find it on this page at the top of the page, I think, sort of in my bio, and that will go on the website. Anywho, all of that is kind of irrelevant because I wanted to talk a little bit about the basics of HRT. But before we do that, let's address the breast cancer topic, because I like to go straight in there. Let's address the elephant in the room. I was asked a few times today, and I was asked on not my group, I was asked on this page, I think today as well, to address the breast cancer side of things. Now, it's a complex topic. I am not a breast cancer expert. I am not going to be able to give you specialist breast cancer advice, but the overarching comments are: there is no increased breast cancer risk with the right body identical, nice transdermal HRT, and I'll talk a little bit about the types of HRT in a minute. It's been evidenced a number of times, and just as an example that estrogen isn't bad for you, because obviously it was good for us when we were younger. I don't know why it would be bad for us now. Women who only take estrogen instead of the combined estrogen and progesterone HRT, so those women who've had a hysterectomy who don't need progesterone, and I'll explain the reasons why in a second when we go back to basics, they are evidenced to have a reduced risk of breast cancer. So those who take estrogen only, because they don't need the progesterone for their uterus health, are shown to have a lowered breast cancer risk. Now that says something good about estrogen. I'm just going to leave that with you. I do refer to it in a bit more detail in my book. Oh, did I mention my book again? Sorry, it just comes out. So have a think about that. And the only, I suppose the only less than positive element from an HRT perspective, from a breast cancer perspective with HRT, is that there has been some evidence that the synthetic progesterone in some of the combined tablets and the combined patches, some of those are evidenced to increase very slightly, not significantly, but very slightly increase the breast cancer risk for women. So it's not actually the estrogen. There is some link with, like the progesterone that you would find in the contraceptive pill, for example, that sort of thing. So It's not, if you're on those patches, those combined patches like Everel Sequi, Everel Conti, or the Femiston tablets, things like that, you don't need to worry. It's not as if you have this huge increased risk, but there is some evidence to indicate that there is a slightly increased blood clot risk with the contraceptive pill. Sorry, not blood clot risk. There is that as well. Breast cancer risk with the contraceptive pill and with these progesterone containing products. So what's considered to be the gold standard of HRT would be the estrogen gel, known as estrogen gel, and the Utrogestan tablets, which are progesterone tablets. So although there are loads, in fact you can see them on my little shelf here. So the Utrogestan tablets, as I've got them, I might as well show you. These little beauties, these little Utrogestan tablets are part of an HRT regime. They're the progesterone part of the HRT regime, and they don't have blood clot risk or breast cancer risk. So if you're on these as your progesterone, or if you're on the gel, the estrogen gel, or the estrogen only patches, those risks don't apply. Anyway, we jump ahead, but I did tell you it was a bit random. The breast cancer risk, if you have breast cancer in your family, it's worth, if you can, finding out whether there is an estrogen receptor breast cancer risk. So something like a lot of you will have heard of the BRCA gene. That would be an increased risk, because we don't want to feed that potential with, if you have the BRCA gene, we don't want to feed that with estrogen, because that would increase your risk. Having said that, many women who have actually had breast cancer with the estrogen receptor breast cancer element attached to it will still take HRT, because the quality of life without HRT is just too poor, and they would rather have that increased risk with the improved quality of life. And I think possibly that would be me if it were me in that situation. So there are lots of different little quirks around breast cancer. Just because your grandmother or your auntie or your mother had breast cancer does not mean you can't take HRT. There is a much bigger conversation around that. Estrogen is not the devil, and it has been proved many times not to be the devil. So hopefully that helps a little bit with the whole breast cancer element. I know many women are told, no, you can't have HRT, there's a breast cancer risk, whether they have it in the family or not. That is not the case. It is not as simple as that, and in most cases it's not true. Oh, hello Rachel. Oh, you struggle to find me. You can always find me, Rachel. I'm always around, as you know. So back to basics. So the benefits of HRT. I had this question a lot today, actually. Most of the ladies I saw today are actually on HRT or were on HRT, but they were struggling with their regimes. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But the benefits of HRT are massive for many women. I cannot function without my HRT. I had a hysterectomy a couple of years ago, so I only take estrogen. I could take progesterone as well. There are benefits to that as well for many women. It doesn't make much difference to me, so I choose not to take it. Back to the basics of, before I talk to you about benefits, let me talk about what we need it for. So every cell in your body has an estrogen receptor attached to it. So therefore, the benefits of having estrogen include feeding those cells, feeding those receptors. So that's why you become brain foggy, or your skin gets really dry, or your hair starts to fall out, or you get aching joints, or you get dry vagina, or you get all sorts of aches and pains, and you get low mood. All of those things that are happening to you are because your estrogen receptors are struggling with that fluctuation in your hormones, both progesterone, estrogen, and the reduction in testosterone as well. Yes, women need testosterone too. So during perimenopause, all of these hormones are fluctuating, and your body's desperately trying to find some stability and some consistency. And that's why one day you'll feel amazing, the next day you'll feel absolutely awful. When you become postmenopausal, so when your periods have stopped and when you've completely stopped your periods for a year or more, it's a little bit more settled, but that doesn't mean that suddenly all your symptoms disappear. And a statement that is often made, which makes me sad, is when women say, oh, there's no point in me even thinking about HRT, I'm through it now. Well, we're not through it, because menopause is like the lifelong state that you'll be in. Once your periods have stopped, menopause, your postmenopausal menopause, is all that time after. You might find your symptoms improve. Most women still have symptoms to some degree or other. And I have a couple of clients now in their late 80s who are on HRT, and their lives have been massively enhanced. It hasn't made them 20 years old and made them able to be bungee jumping and skydiving, unless they want to, of course. I haven't asked them. But it's made them, it's got them to the point where they can live their lives as healthily as you would hope to in your 80s and 90s. Without feeling low in mood, without having dry skin. They're able to sit down or wear trousers without feeling all that irritation. So there are many benefits at any age. But as we become postmenopausal, it doesn't mean that you can't that it's pointless to replace your hormones. It absolutely isn't pointless. Your hormones aren't going to grow back. I mean, they will literally have to prise my patches off my dead body, because I am never giving up my patches. Well, I might change to gel again, but to be fair, but some one way or the other, I'm going to be using my HRT. But so many women are told, you're either too young, or you're too old, or there's a risk of breast cancer, or there's a risk of blood clots, or lots of other things around that. That is not the case. What we're trying to do is replenish those missing hormones, so that your cells will be fed and stable again, and you'll start to feel more like a normal human being. And I spoke to a lady the other day who said, I'm in my 70s. I'm on HRT. I've been on HRT for years. I feel great. I feel, as good as I would hope to feel at my age. She said, but I know that I'm still going to get aches and pains, and still things are going to still happen, and I'm still going to feel like I'm 70 some days, because it's not a magic cure, which is absolutely the realistic way to look at it. If you can be 80%, as you age, if you can feel 80% good, that's a win. You're not going to get 100% wellness just from your HRT. What you are going to get is that balance and that feeling of stability, so that then if you also exercise 3 or more times a week, if you eat well, cut down your alcohol, don't smoke, all the things that we know we should do, then you're really doing the best for your body. There's much higher risk of breast cancer if you drink alcohol every day than if you take HRT. That's just one example. So it's worth considering. If you're worried about taking HRT, it's just worth considering pros and cons. And the benefits, which I'll talk to you about in a minute, can be massive. Let me just look at this little comment. Hello, Katrina. I'm on a very low HRT. My other wasn't available. Had a partial hysterectomy some years ago, still have ovaries. Sleep better, anxiety comes and goes. So that's good. So Katrina's had a partial hysterectomy, which means that she's had her uterus out, but she's kept her ovaries. Now, just for everybody else, and I'm not sure if this applies to you, Katrina, sometimes, more often than not, women are told, you don't need HRT, you've had your uterus removed, but you've still got your ovaries, therefore you don't need replacement hormones. That is not the case, because actually quite soon after you've had the surgery that I'm referring to, where you just have your uterus removed for whatever reason, but your ovaries are left in place, that can impact the ovaries. They share the same blood supply. In fact, I was watching an expert webinar on this the other day. The ovaries and the uterus share the same blood supply. It's about 50% of the blood supply to the ovaries comes from the uterus. So when you remove that uterus, oh sorry, I just had the cat up here. When you remove that uterus, it's going to impact the ovaries, and therefore it's likely you'll go into a much menopause and perimenopause much sooner. And if you're already perimenopausal, it's going to push that process forward even more quickly. If you're on very low HRT, Katrina, and you still have some anxiety, it's worth considering going on a higher dose. But obviously, if you're okay on that, that's absolutely fine. Yes, Helen, stay on HRT for life. Perfect. Benefits. So, in case you don't know, the benefits of being on HRT are numerous. On my website, menopauseornotmad.co.uk, there is a list of most of the sort of well-known symptoms. There are actually more, but they're just very individual. For example, I'm fully balanced, but I still get a bit of tinnitus. I can hear the ringing in my ears now, but I just kind of zone it out. I'm just left with that. That's fine. I'm okay with that. But in terms of the benefits, all those symptoms that you see on the website, and actually there are different versions of the symptoms list depending on where you go, lots of different websites, including the NHS one, that have different symptoms on there. What I would hope for, if you're balanced on your HRT, excuse me, is for most of those symptoms to be managed. Again, we're not looking for perfection because that would be ridiculous and unrealistic. What we're looking for is for you to feel normal as you can and able to function. So if you're living a relatively healthy life and you're reasonably balanced with your hormones, you shouldn't have a particularly low mood. You may need antidepressants as well. That's absolutely fine if that's what you need, but not due to being having a low mood from being peri or postmenopausal, only if you need antidepressants for clinical depression that's aside from your hormones. But what we're looking for is to manage things like your low mood, your dry skin, your bladder leaks, your hair falling out, dry vagina, sore bones, anything that's to do with your body, to be fair. We're looking really to manage that to the point where you think, actually, today's a good day. I'm all good. I can just carry on as normal. Some women feel amazing on HRT. Some women don't ever quite get to that balance. I've had good and bad days over the years, and I certainly crashed with my balance when I'd had my hysterectomy. Even though I was already on a good dose of HRT, I had to increase that after I'd had my ovaries removed, which again is relatively common. So the benefits there are symptoms management, of course. In addition to that, the long-term health benefits are widely known now, although I know some of them are not accepted by many clinicians, expert or otherwise. It is widely considered a fact that taking a good regime of HRT will help fend off the dreaded osteoporosis, so fend off your increased risk as you age of breaking bones, whether that's breaking your wrist while you're doing the washing up or twisting your ankle and actually breaking your ankle. You're much more at risk of these things as you age. You're still at risk of these things, but it's an increased risk if you don't have your estrogen to help with that bone density that we know is really, really important. Also with cardiovascular situations, so that might be a stroke or heart attack, just as an example. Anything in that line is again an increased risk when we don't have our estrogen in our system. And many more women, 7 times more women, die of cardiovascular events than they do of breast cancer. Breast cancer is a terrible disease, and I'm absolutely not belittling that and not diminishing that, but actually it's not the biggest killer of women. So we need to consider the fact that without estrogen, women's your arteries actually really struggle to dilate to allow that blood to flow easily. So that vasodilation impact is quite it's really important, not just quite important, it's really important. And many women have died over the years from heart attacks and strokes unnecessarily, because they were told, oh no, you can't have HRT, you can't replace your hormones, it's just part of getting older. Well, death is part of getting older, and none of us are welcoming that any day. So it's really important for us to advocate for ourselves and just to say, actually, I hear you, but I would like to try HRT if that's what you want to do, because then you're getting the best, or you're doing the best for your body If you don't like it after a few months and you think, actually, this is for me, of course, just stop it if you want to. But perseverance is important. It can take a long time to get your perfect little mix. I've had, again, I mentioned this in the book, I've had probably, I don't know, about 10 different types of HRT over the years, or different regimes. And it will be affected by or impacted by, illness or stress, and lots of other life factors can make a difference to your hormone levels and how your body is processing that. So you need to have patience and perseverance in order to make sure you're doing the right thing for your body. Jeanette, hi. So, as you know, the pellet. I know about the pellet. I've completely stopped the gel now. Felt properly balanced, but sleep still wasn't too good. Added in 100 milligrams of Utrogestin, and bam, I'm sleeping. Now, when I take Utrogestin, originally, you now have the coil. I thought it was the Utrogestin that was causing the low mood. Could it have just been I was out of balance and not necessarily? Yes. So, what Jeanette is saying is that she had. I know Jeanette. I know her regime because she's in my VIP membership and she's a client of mine. So I can't remember everything about Jeanette's regime, but I do know that she has one of the estrogen pellets, which are quite unusual in the UK, but quite widely used, I believe, in the States. And I have quite a few US clients that have been offered those. She stopped. She was adding an extra gel. She stopped the gel now. She felt balanced, but her sleep wasn't good. So what she's basically saying is that she's now added in Utrogestin, which is the progesterone tablet I showed you a minute ago. And Utrogestin can quite often have a sedative effect. And so it doesn't work with all women. It certainly didn't work with me, but it seems like it's working for Jeanette, which is great. She was under the impression, she'd been given the impression that her Utrogestin, when she took it before, was actually causing her problems, but it seems not. And yes, Jeanette, it could have been just that you were out of balance and you're slowly finding that balance, which is great. It takes a while. You're a really good example, by the way, Jeanette, of perseverance, trying what you think might work, listening to the experts. And I'm not talking about me, but I'm talking about the clinicians you've spoken to. But also you've listened to me when we've talked about what's best for you and what's worth trying. And I think it's just been reassuring for you to have somebody to bounce ideas off. But you've actually made some really good decisions for yourself there. So that's excellente. Good. So back to the benefits of HRT. It really hurts me when women are told regularly that they can't have HRT. And I met a number of women today at the event that I was helping with. And it was really difficult for many of them who had obviously they'd been put on HRT because they asked for it, they had symptoms, but this was a few years ago, perhaps 2 years ago. I'm thinking of a couple of ladies in particular, a couple of years ago, but they were put on a low dose of HRT, which is absolutely fine, always good to start low and sort of work up, but then just left on this low dose. So one lady in particular was on 1 pump of the gel, the estrogel, which I have here, 1 pump of that a day, and she was taking the Utrogestin tablets, 1 of these a day. All fine in theory, but 2 years on, she hasn't really been reviewed. She hasn't been told that she has options, which is what we really need to know. We need to know we have options. And so she's been left struggling with actually the gel not really making any difference because her body is ready for that, has been ready for that increase for a long time. So all I said to her today was, she rattled off her symptoms. She was really struggling, and I just said, you just need an increase in estrogen. That's a really low dose you're on, and clearly, if that was working for you, no problem. Your symptoms would be pretty much managed. It's not. So there is no increased risk in you now increasing that to 2 pumps of gel, and if you need to, increase it to 3 pumps of gel, which would be amazing if she could get herself balanced. So she's gone away now to have that conversation with her doctor, but it's really, I mean, my job is just to educate and empower women and advocate for them, and the feedback today was that I'd done that, so I was happy with that. Just those women now have the information they need. I have about 1,000 clients worldwide over about 100 countries, and I have about 60 or 70,000 followers online. But it's so important to me that even if I just reach out to one person and one person feels better because of something I've said, hence the reason for this live. If just one of you listens to even a tiny part of what I'm saying today or tonight, if one of you can go, oh, that's the problem. Oh, I know what to say now. That would be amazing. And I'm very happy to answer, as I said, any questions, if I can, that come up on the chat afterwards if I don't get a chance to address them today. Let me look, because there's another question. You're welcome, Jeanette. Sue, hello. Would it be a reasonable assumption that a half dose of Testagel, I'll explain what Testagel is in a minute for you guys. It's just hopped off. Needs increasing back towards a full dose if the estrogen patch is dropped from 75 to 50. All right, that's quite complex. Just preparing for next GP appointment. The reduced estrogen feels good physically, but the loss of joy or libido is returning. Okay, so Sue is referring to Testagel, which is a testosterone supplement for women. Yes, women also produce a lot of testosterone, about 3 or 4 times more than estrogen before they're perimenopausal. So what she is referring to is the link between the absorption of the testosterone in women and the impact that has on our estrogen. And in some cases, testosterone in women, when it's added in as a supplement, can convert to estrogen if your estrogen isn't fully optimal. So I'm just going to read what she said again. So she said she's dropped her estrogen dose and feels okay on that. And she's saying, should she then be upping her testosterone dose? I think not, Sue, based on what I'm reading there. I'll have another look at that after I come off the live. But I wouldn't change anything with your Testagel just now, because I'd like to see a bit longer where you are. But that's not, I would say if you're having a loss of joy for life, which is a term we use quite a lot in the world of menopause, I think that's the estrogen, not the testosterone. So I'm not sure why you're reducing from 75 to 50 micrograms. Just throwing it out there. Have a think about that. Gillian, hello. Currently have a Marina and on a low dose of estrogel, 2 pumps. So she's got the Marina coil, which is the progesterone element of her HRT. I'll explain how that works in a second. This has been great for most symptoms, but I'm struggling with fatigue, wondering what might be better to try, increasing estrogel or starting testosterone. Definitely increase your estrogel. 2 pumps, as she said, is quite a low dose. Therefore, I think you're probably not at optimal level yet. I'd try 3 pumps and maybe just park the testosterone. Have a test to see where you are level-wise for testosterone, but just park that for now. Just to clarify, because I don't think I've clarified very well in my random way, the estrogen in HRT needs to be backed up by progesterone if you have a uterus. It's really, really important. I'll just repeat that because it's so important. The estrogel you have has to be backed up by progesterone, and I'll tell you why. Because the estrogen boosts the lining of your uterus, called the endometrial lining or the endometrium, which is fine. That's its job. Makes it all thick, ready for babies and all that. Don't worry, you're not going to have a baby just from taking HRT. But if you allow that to happen, and this happened a lot in the 1960s when they were first bringing in HRT and they didn't really understand it as well as they do now, it can over-thicken. If it's just estrogen on its own, it can over-thicken the lining of the uterus, the endometrial lining, and that can then put you at much higher risk of uterine cancer, of uterus cancer or endometrial cancer, which very sadly is what happened to a lot of the women in the 60s, and they died very tragically because they didn't have anything that was reducing the endometrial lining. So you have to have that balance between thicken it up, thin it down. So we now introduce progesterone, which we naturally produce progesterone normally, what that does is that thins the lining of the uterus. So you get thickening of the lining of the uterus and thinning of the lining of the uterus. So you have this lovely balance, which then reduces that risk of any thickening. So you might, just as a thing to think about, is if you're on HRT, you're not bleeding, or you know when your periods are going to be, and suddenly things change, or you've gone from having no periods for a year because you're all balanced and you're postmenopausal and it's all fine, and then you start to bleed, you must go to your doctor and you must ask for a scan just to double check there's no thickening. Don't panic. I had this 2 or 3 times. There was never a big problem. It was just things like a polyp or a fibroid, which are non-cancerous and they just needed dealing with separately, not caused by my HRT, by the way. So it's important, and the reason I stress it is because I have seen so many women who have been incorrectly prescribed by their doctor, who doesn't understand HRT and has said, yes, here you are, have some estrogen, but not thought to give them the progesterone. I had one client who was a year into HRT, and I said, okay, so yes, I see you're taking, I think it was the gel she was on. Here, I see you've got the gel. You've told me about that. Tell me about your progesterone. Are you on the coil, Mirena coil, or have you got the Utrogestin tablets? And she said, oh no, that's all I take. I was terrified for her, and I just said, okay, so I want to stop the consultation because I don't want to give you any advice at this moment. I want you to go straight to the doctor, and I want you to ask for a scan, and I want you to have a Utrogestin or straight away, and then potentially you can have the coil later if you choose to, but you can stay on Utrogestin. Anyway, long story short, she had a scan, she was fine, thank goodness. But that is really important for you to know. So if you're ever given, you have a uterus and you're ever given HRT, you must make sure you either have the separate Utrogestin or you have the combined patch, which has both of them in, like Everel Sequi or Everel Conti, which has both the hormones in, or the combined tablet, which would be something like Femiston. There are loads of different brands, but the combined HRT tablet. So you must at some point in your HRT regime have progesterone. I end my sermon there. Let me just check if there's a question before no, I think we're okay. So then, what was the other thing I was going to say? Can't remember. Oh, bleeding. So a question that comes up a lot, I'm going to talk about testosterone in a second, but a question that came up today, actually, which is a really simple to deal with question. So I'm just going to tackle it now because it comes up so much. A lady came to see me today, and it happens all the time. It has happened many, many, many times in my time as an HRT educator. She said to me, I've been on HRT a year or two, and I just can't stop the bleeds. I still get monthly bleeds and I don't know why. And I said, okay, so when you started HRT, were you postmenopausal or were you still having periods? And she said, oh, I hadn't had a period for around about a year, and then they put me on HRT and I've started having periods. And those of you who know me and have heard me wittering on will know what I'm going to say next. So my next question was, are you taking what I would call, what most experts would call sequential HRT? She said, I don't know what that is. I said, it's fine. What I mean is, are you just taking your progesterone, so she was on those tablets, the Utrogestin tablets, for half the month? So are you taking 2 of those tablets just for half the month, and then the other half the month you just have your estrogen on its own without the tablets? She said, oh yes, I've always done that. I said, fine. What's happened, which I knew would be the answer, is they've taken you and said, okay, you can have HRT, we're putting you on a sequential regime. So they've put you on a regime of HRT that puts you into a bleed regime, into a period regime. You'll have 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. So when you're not taking your progesterone, you'll likely have a period. It's a withdrawal bleed, it's not a proper period. So she said, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And I said, what you should have been put on and what you should be on now is your estrogen, fine, and one of those Utrogestin tablets every day, which means you have progesterone every day. Therefore, it tells your body, we don't need a bleed. So that's really important. If you're postmenopausal, you do not want to be pushed into having periods. If you're nearly postmenopausal, you don't particularly want to be pushed into having periods. And anybody who says to you, you have to have a bleed, you can't You can't have up until you're 50 or 55 or a made up number, made up age. You have to have a bleed. It's really risky not to. It's talking out of their bottom. Absolute nonsense. There is zero reason for you to have a bleed as long as you are using your HRT effectively. Look at girls in their 20s who have the contraceptive pill or the Mirena coil. They're on continuous progesterone. It's ongoing daily progesterone. They don't have periods. Nobody ever tells them they're at risk. And another thing that is told to many women is you can't have continuous progesterone because you're X age or you're not postmenopausal. Here's the Mirena coil. The Mirena coil is continuous progesterone. It just happens to be in a different format to the tablets that I've just mentioned. So the basic understanding of what these little HRT elements do gives you the power to say, I hear you, Mr. or Mrs. Doctor, but actually I don't want the Mirena coil if you don't. But can I just say that's continuous progesterone and I just like to take it in this body identical form in the tablet format. So most doctors actually will be grateful for that information. And in fact, the only reason I got the opportunity today to speak to women in an NHS doctor surgery, which was amazing, I was so happy to be there, was because I'd pushed back at my poor doctor and she tried to tell me something about HRT and I went, no, that's wrong. Please let me tell you what the facts are. And bless her, she was absolutely good as gold and said, please will you come and speak, because she said, I don't know what I'm talking about with the HRT. And so that's what happened. So most doctors will appreciate it. If they don't, that you still need to say it. You still need to say what's right for you. You need to say, this is what I know, this is what I want, this is what I need. Nothing I've said to you tonight, is going to put you at an increased risk. So if you feel you want to start HRT, then you need to be able to do that, presuming you're perimenopausal or menopausal, of course. The last thing I want to talk about, there's actually so many things I could talk about. I might just do another live because it's just endless. But the last thing I want to talk about was testosterone, because somebody brought it up on this page earlier on today. I actually attended an event the other day where testosterone in women was slated a bit. I had to bite my tongue because actually it wasn't particularly positive about testosterone. I like to be transparent about such things, and I was very open-minded. I tried not to close my mind off, but they ignored an awful lot of women's opinions and women's thoughts on how they feel when they're on testosterone. And if you if you follow Dr. Louise Newson, and on the balance page, you'll see that she's also a big advocate of testosterone. Now, it isn't for all women. I completely get that. Some women do fine without testosterone, and your testosterone declines at a slightly lower rate anyway. So it's not till perhaps a little bit further down the line that you really struggle, if you are going to struggle. And some women are fine without it. But it's such an important hormone, and what a lot of people are being told is it's only good to improve your libido. That's not the case, and many women in my community, some of them on this page, would agree that it's helped them with their energy levels, with their muscle stamina, so recovery from exercise. It's helped with their mood, brain fog. I certainly find it helps with my bone pain. If I don't take it, my bones really ache. Now, we were being told the other day at this event I went to that no evidence is in place to back that up, and that it's just a placebo. I absolutely refute that. There hasn't been enough research and there haven't been enough studies for them to say that. Yes, a lot of experts agree on it, but I want to see more studies, and I know that a lot of really good people are doing more studies, so that's amazing. But it's so important to acknowledge that We don't suddenly stop needing testosterone as we age, and it has a really big, plays a really big part in our lives. Many women are told, why would you want a libido anyway? You're over 50, you've or over 45 even, you've had your family. Why do you even need one? Well, I don't even know what to say to that. Well, I do know what I would say if it was said to me, but I think you know my opinion on that. And I had one lady who was, I can't believe I'm even saying this on the public page, but I'm going to say it anyway. One lady was told by her male GP, and by the way, I do have real sympathy and empathy for GPs. I'm a huge advocate of most GPs and the work they do, but some GPs really. This was said to a client of mine. She was told, okay, I will give you testosterone, madam, but only because I feel sorry for your husband as you're not putting out. So I'll leave that thought with you. I don't think that would have ended well if that had been a conversation I'd been having with him. But regardless, that is not how it is. We have many, many reasons for needing testosterone. I'm on a relatively low dose. Some women are on slightly higher doses. Absorption is a big thing as well with both estrogen and testosterone. So we're real individuals when it comes to that. So although I've made lots of overarching statements and sort of summary statements, it's really important to remember that you're an individual and your friend down the road may be having a completely different experience to you with or without HRT. And although you can quite legitimately share, of course, it's great to share your experiences, try not to compare. So share, don't compare. I do love a little rhyme. Share, don't compare, because your experience of HRT and your chosen HRT, your preferred choice of HRT isn't necessarily going to be the same as your friend, but you can share how you feel about it and you can share your experiences, because the more we share these experiences, the more we know about it. I'm just going to double check because Carla has come on now and then I'm going to let you go. Carla, hello. Went up to 100 patch, a stiffness in neck, stiff concrete muscles, came back and rushes, surges felt in my head on the new patch. Carried on, I thought they were settling symptoms. Then after 1 month, put the patch on. A few hours after, felt I was going to pass out. Mad surge, throbbing neck, cramping. Okay, just quickly reading. I'm assuming, yeah, that's one of the estrogen patches. I don't know what progesterone you're on, Carla, and I don't know the history prior to putting on the patch, but it sounds like it's too high for you. But that's just based on what I can see there. If you've gone up to the 100 patch in quite a steep increase, so if, let's say you were on 50 before, and you doubled it and went up to 100, that might have been the reason. It's difficult to tell from that, but if you're able to tell me a bit more, then let me know and I'll try and answer later. I hope that's been helpful. I could rabbit on for a lot longer. I'll be really happy if you could comment below if you've got anything you want to know about next time. I'd be really happy if you could like or put a little reaction, because that helps the video get to other women as well. Otherwise, Facebook and those lovely little algorithms don't push the video up on the public page. That would be super useful if you could. And buy my book, menopauseanotmad.co.uk. That's not out till Tuesday, but please go on the mailing list because I'd love to keep in contact with you. You're welcome, Katrina, and you are welcome, Gillian. Thank you all. Have a good evening.